I love that tradition of the applause as the faculty comes in. I noticed it petered out when I came in, so. Hey, welcome, New Year. Hey. I will have some remarks, but we will start, as we always do, with School Chaplain Bob Ganung offering a prayer of introduction and celebration and initiation. Bob?
Let us rise together for the opening prayer. And let us now join our hearts and minds together, be in a spirit of prayer. Let us pray. God of grace and wisdom, power and might, bless us as we gather in Bingham Auditorium for the opening day of school here at the Taft School. As teachers and students, we gather here with energy and enthusiasm for the new year ahead. We come with open hearts and minds to learn and grow and develop in mind, body, and spirit. We have arrived here from many regions of the world. Though we may appear different on the surface according to our circumstances and places of origin, remind us that we are all the same on the most important level. We are all of equal value in the eyes of God, who calls us to treat one another with kindness, respect, and compassion. Gracious God, every girl and boy in this assembly has come to Taft to further their education in one of the finest boarding schools in the nation. Our prayer for them is that they will be transformed during their time here into thoughtful, wise, and caring human beings who want to go forth into the world not to be served, but to serve others. Encourage all of us as students and teachers to continue to reach out and connect with those who have very different interests and perspectives on life than we do, so that we might forge an enlightened and loving community for the benefit of all. Bless us as we enter this new year together. Amen.
For new students, let me just say a very quick word about the way we use this space, this beautiful auditorium. School meetings like this are different than assemblies, and Mr. Carlson and Ms. Sanborn will talk a little bit about assembly. Assembly tends to be a little bit more raucous, a little more fun, lots of announcements, students and faculty standing here. But school meetings are a little different, and they are times for a faculty member, outside speakers, students to speak, and there are a few traditions that have evolved over the years. One of them, some of them are practical, and new students wouldn't know this necessarily. When you come in, leave your backpack and books outside. This is a really trusting place. It'll be out there when you get done. Seniors, we've always said, by virtue of their leadership and their position at the school, they leave first, so they would walk out first, and others would then follow them. And in this case today, the faculty will wait and we'll let you all leave first. I think there's a tradition that when someone steps up to give their talk, whomever it is, we welcome them warmly with applause, and whether that's the person introducing or the actual speaker. And this tends to be a little bit more formal, obviously, than assemblies. And whenever this is the case, you obviously want to give the speaker your attention and your respect, whomever they are. So it's a great tradition we have. I think not every school meets 4 days a week the way we do. It's the way community gets fashioned, and I really deeply believe in what happens here. So welcome to all of you, and particularly to all the new folks. I'd like to do something I haven't done in the past, but I would like the new faculty standing behind me. I'd like the new faculty to stand up. Those who have entered, could you guys stand? I'd like to warmly welcome them to Taft. So. I will tell you, this is a remarkably talented group of men and women, and I cannot wait to see the work they're going to do. And actually, at the risk of embarrassing her English teacher, Ms. Agiri Kelly's birthday is today. So, a warm welcome. Stand up. Hey. No, we will not sing happy birthday. And then I'd like to do something else, and that is, if you're a new student, stand up. If you're new, please stand. There we are. Well, every year we go through this, and we bring in this new group of students, and you change the school. And I'm delighted I think I speak for all the faculty when I say that I've looked forward to this day. We all spend time in the summer with family and friends. We go off and do graduate work. We prepare for school. But the fact of the matter is, as much as we like that, it's great to be here. This campus without you on it doesn't feel right. I was so happy in the last couple of days to see the place fill up. The energy on the campus is fantastic. So here we go, and I just wish you the best for a great year. I want to talk about how this happens, so how a year begins. And in a way, I stumbled on this idea, and it's a familiar one. It's one that you know I care a lot about, and that is a way in which you create trust in communities. And I came upon this, a different angle into the question, when I read a book by an economist and historian this summer, a scholar named Tony Judd. And he wrote a book called Ill Fares the Land. And it's a fascinating work that looks at both this nation and also the global economic picture. And as you can tell from the title, it's grim in some ways. And it argues that the economic disparity in this world is going to cause great challenges for us. But it's an elegant book. And there's a short chapter that I found, and it's called Community, Trust, and Common Purpose. And I remember finding that in August thinking, you know, there's something for us here in this school of some 580 students and 125 faculty members and 100 staff. I think there's something here. And here's what he wrote about cooperation and trust in countries and societies. He said, all collective undertakings require trust. From the games that children play to complex social institutions, humans cannot work together unless they suspend their suspicions of one another. One person holds the rope and the other jumps. One person steadies the ladder, the other climbs. Why? In part because we hope for reciprocity, but in part because what is clearly a natural propensity to work in cooperation to collective advantage. So what strikes him there is that it may be unique to our species, that we cooperate not only because we hope to get something back, that is, there's an element of self-interest. I hope that that trust will come back to me, but because somehow we seem to bend as a people towards cooperation, and that's a good thing. It explains why humans have always organized themselves in groups, in cities, and nations, and in these collections, if there's a high level of trust, they flourish, and of course, if there's not a high level, they fail. But how this trust happens and why it happens in any collective undertaking is really mysterious. For in essence, trust is about giving something up, right? Trust is about giving something up. It's an act of faith. It's an act of risk. You become vulnerable when you do that, whether it's a relationship in which you trust or membership in a larger group. After all, what would happen if you trusted others? You trusted people to stop at the stop sign, not to commit robbery, to pay their bills. What happens if they did not honor the trust and you had it? To trust others in a human organization is to acknowledge that we need each other. Now, homogeneous societies, he notes, have a really easy time in establishing trust and a much easier time than in diverse ones. And in fact, there's a lot of evidence to support this. He noted a country, for instance, that the boys' soccer team visited this summer. They were in Denmark last month. Now, that's a country that in all of the surveys and studies they've done, it has really high levels of citizen trust of each other because 95% of them identify themselves as Lutheran Christians. It's not a particularly diverse country. Had the team gone to Austria, they would have entered a nation where 92% of the people identify themselves as, quote, of Austrian origin. And here, too, studies show that there's a high level of civic trust. He writes, there is a lot of evidence that people trust each other more if they have a lot in common with them. And this can mean economic status, it can mean faith, it can mean religion, it can mean race, ethnicity. So those countries which are largely homogeneous, where they have citizens of similar backgrounds, trust seems to come quite easily. Now, what's troubling, you might be guessing, is a corollary. You're all smart, and you're thinking, if I get that, what it means is that I'm guessing that places that are highly diverse have more trouble establishing trust. And it's true. History shows us this. The historians behind me would be able to speak to this, and you'll learn this in your history classes. If we were able in some way to graph levels of civic trust in this country's history, that is, if we could simply measure how much citizens tended to trust each other, I think we would see that line dip dramatically at times when the country became increasingly diverse, in particular during the great waves of immigration. Americans, for instance, of British descent in the 1840s were highly suspicious of Catholic Irish who came during the potato famine in the 1840s. Scottish miners in Appalachia didn't trust the Slavic immigrants that came in the 1880s and 1890s. New Yorkers, native New Yorkers, feared Italians in the turn of the century with that great wave of immigration in the Lower East Side. They were fearful. In those contexts, groups of people have trouble trusting that which looks different. It's scary. They aren't sure that the trust will be reciprocated. They wonder, does that guy who doesn't look like me, who doesn't talk like me, who doesn't worship the way I do, will I be able to trust him? Will that be reciprocated? Maybe his interests are so different than me, I cannot trust him. So you'll learn this when you look at our own nation's history. And at times, frankly, it's not one of the better parts of our history. The examples of the lack of civic trust are staggering. I think in some ways it's a dark chapter. Immigration laws in the past that today read as horrible and discriminatory. Riots between ethnic groups in the cities. The emergence of groups like the KKK, which were clearly deeply distrustful of anything different than them. So our history in this country might be understood as a way in which this really messy, complicated, diverse nation has tried to fashion trust in its citizenry. I think, by the way, there's a thread in the political discourse that continues to this day. I think probably there always will. You see it in nations, not only ours, of course. If you read the papers and you follow what's going on in many Central European nations, they are wrestling with the burgeoning immigrant populations. And you see social policies that are wrestling with, are trying to understand whether they can have a kind of civic trust. Jude notes this, he writes, a steady increase in the number of immigrants, especially from third world countries, correlates all too well in the Netherlands, Denmark, and the UK, and other countries with a noticeable decline in social cohesion. In other words, as these countries have become more diverse, as immigrants come in bringing very different cultural baggage from places as varied as Morocco and Turkey and the Caribbean, they have struggled to establish the kind of trust in each other which was pretty easy when they were more homogeneous. So we know this, that that trust is the cornerstone of any social group, and we know from examining history and from the present, and looking at this nation and others, that establishing and maintaining trust is harder the more diverse the group is. So you can anticipate the next question, and you know where I'm going. If it is so hard to create trust in a diverse community, what does it mean for this little nation state of ours, of diverse teachers and students of Taft? What does it mean that we have to do? What challenges are in front of us? Viewed through that lens, I think that this annual experiment we have is stunningly audacious. Think about it. We're this little tiny country that every September welcomes about 180 immigrants, lower mid to postgraduate, from diverse backgrounds, and then we set out in very short order to build a community that rests on trust. This is the challenge we have every year. Each of you who've been here was one of those immigrants, and I was myself one day. It's what we do. I think we do it really well. It's remarkable, but it takes great effort. It happens because of the people in this room, those in front of me and those behind. We begin every September on this day a collection of teachers and students from nations around the globe, of every skin color and different sexuality. We worship in different buildings. We speak all kinds of tongues. We are tied to various ethnicities. We have radically different political views. And we somehow come to trust each other and build a healthy and successful school. What happens is complicated. I think it's even magical, but it's also deliberate and intentional, and we work hard at doing it. I hope that the lessons that happen you carry with you forever. Here's how it happens. And it's a result of two things, a contradiction, if you will, a tension between self and community. On one hand, and I echo what Andrew Cadian had said to the new students yesterday when he said, be true to yourself. Right? He said that of 7 pieces of advice. He said, be true to yourself. On one hand, what I hope is that you will bring all that is uniquely you to this place. We need that. We cannot be what we might be if you do not do that. That's what makes this a vibrant and exciting learning community. Our classes are more rigorous because of your unique perspectives. Our dining halls are more alive because of the conversations that happen. Our dormitories are more fun because of the sharing that happens. How boring would this place be if we all looked, thought, and spoke alike? I would never want to be at that school. I care about diversity, not because it's a politically correct term, those days are gone, but because diversity makes the school challenging, and it makes it interesting, and if you don't get rehearsal in working with people who think differently than you, you will never succeed in this world. So bring all of yourself. I might argue that in a way, it's almost a selfish act. I'm asking for a celebration of yourself, of the individual. It's appropriate for you to implicitly say, and I even say it for myself, I matter. I bring something no one else does. I want you to know all of me. Whether you were from Botswana or Boston, Christian or Jew, white or black, stray or gay, athlete or poet, Republican or Democrat, you bring a life experience that is singularly yours. You bring a unique identity. It enriches this place, and we all can learn from it. So that's the easy part. Be yourself. The harder part, Jude reminded us, and it's harder because we lack the homogeneity, happily, that a place like Denmark or Austria does, is the way in which you also have to give up. You give up a piece of yourself. You place a trust that everyone else will, and you become a citizen of something larger. In a way, you lose an identity and gain another. You have a civic identity. You become a Tafty. Now, I find it stunning and inspiring that we do it every year. Jude has told us a truth that trust comes easiest in homogeneous communities, and we are the opposite of that. Perhaps it has something to do with our admissions. Perhaps it's that Mr. Frew and his team seek out students who they know will make this choice to become part of something larger. Perhaps it's because of older students, in particular the seniors in front of me, leaders, monitors, captains. Maybe because they model this belief and they are willing to speak to it. Maybe it's because of our faculty. They teach in visible and invisible ways, and they instruct and they guide in what it means to become a Taft citizen. Perhaps it's the traditions, the rituals we have which affirm that we each are a member of a community and we have to trust each other. But something happens in this place. We look around at each other and we think, I can trust you. That will be reciprocated. We are fellow citizens setting out together to do that which is very difficult. Whatever the cause, and I think it's all of these things, and it is really hard work. Each year we create a community where we place enormous trust in each other, and it's an act that affirms that when we give up part of ourselves, we become part of something larger. Here's what we do. We trust each other to tell the truth in all areas of school life, from daily conduct to the academic work. That's why, starting today, you pledge every work you hand in. That's why when a teacher says, where are you going for the weekend, you tell the truth. We trust each other to take on the business of teaching and learning very seriously, and where no class can succeed if its members are not prepared, engaged, and curious. That is, as a teacher, I trust that you will come in ready to learn. As a student, you look around and you know that your peers have done the work and will make the class stimulating. We trust each other to be respectful of each other, despite and because of our differences. You listen, you disagree, you question, you learn, and you always respect. We trust each other to be respectful of property, each other's and the school. And we show this in the dorms, in the hallways, in the dining hall. We leave the dining room neat. We know we can leave our backpack outside. If I don't lock my room, I don't worry that someone's going to take something. And finally, we trust each other that we're going to uphold the rules, the structure. We know we need to do that together. So as of yesterday, this little nation of ours changed, and for the better. And it does every year when new students and new teachers enter. It's a really great immigration policy we have. And if we can all make that leap of faith to trust, to take that risk, to see how much we deeply mutually need each other, we will do that which I think is very difficult, and I hope in the end will fundamentally change who we are and lead us to the day in which we can maybe go out and change the world in some small way. And that's the spirit that I welcome you. I cannot tell you how excited I am to see you here. I wish you the very best luck. To all the new students, my office is on the main hall. I hope you come in. I look forward to getting to know you. I wish you the very best today. Welcome back to Taft. Thank you.